thymus gland. So it is also an endocrine gland. It is also an endocrine gland. We have already discussed what is endocrine gland, what are the functions performed by them. Okay, so it is also an endocrine gland. It is situated behind the sternum. It is situated behind the sternum. Okay, it is also an endocrine gland. It is situated behind the sternum. So what is sternum? It is a flat bone. It is a flat bone which is present in our chest region. It is a flat bone which is present in our chest region. So such a bone is called sternum. Okay, so in that region, our chest bone, many ribs and different types of other bones are connected. Okay, so thymus gland, it is found in our sternum region, that is our chest bone is present. Okay, and it is active during infancy period. It is active during infancy period. Infancy period means what? That is growing stage. Okay, growing stage of individual. It is very active during infancy period. When individual reaches puberty, what happens? This endocrine gland, that is our thymus gland, constrict. Our thymus gland constrict. Constrict means what? It reduces its size. And when an individual reaches maturity, it completely disappears. It completely disappears from our body. So it is very active during younger stage, and it produces a hormone called thymosin. It produces a hormone called thymosin. It is also called youth hormone. What is it? It is also called youth hormone because it is very active during infancy period, and when an individual is in youngster stage, these hormones perform different functions. So let us discuss what are the functions performed by this thymus gland or the hormone thymosin. What are the functions performed by thymosin hormone? First we can write, it helps in maturity of T lymphocyte. It helps in maturity of T lymphocyte. It helps in maturity of T lymphocyte. Then it control all cellular activity, all control body activities we can write. Control body activities. So just remember, thymus gland, it is also an endocrine gland. It is situated in the sternum region. Sternum means our chest bone. It's a flat bone present in our chest region. Then it is very active during infancy stage, that is growing stage. Then up to puberty, when an individual reaches puberty, what happens? This thymus gland constrict, that it reduces its shape and size. And when an individual reaches maturity, what happens? This gland completely disappears. Okay, there are two functions performed by this gland. What are they? T lymphocyte, that is maturity of T lymphocyte, then they control body activity. What is the hormone name? Thymosin. It is also called youth hormone. So this is about our thymus gland. Next we have to discuss about adrenal gland. Adrenal gland. What is it? Our second gland is called adrenal gland. So we have to discuss where it is present, what are the hormones secreted by them, then what are the parts of adrenal gland. Where it is present? It is present above the kidney. Okay, above the kidney, this adrenal gland is present. Okay, where it is present? It is present in the kidney, that is above the kidney, adrenal gland is present. And this adrenal gland has two regions. Okay, adrenal gland has two regions. What are they? That is, you can classify into two regions. First region is called medulla and the second region is called cortex. Okay, so there are two regions in adrenal gland. First region is called inner region, that is called medulla, that is the second region is called cortex. Okay, in other ways we can tell inner medulla and second region, that is outer cortex. Okay, so this gland is usually associated with emergency functions. Okay, adrenal gland is usually associated with emergency situations or emergency function. So it releases some emergency hormones into our bloodstream. For example, we have already discussed what are the different types of emergency situation. For example, imagine you are walking, suddenly a barking dog comes near to you, or a snake reaches your path. Okay, so it's an emergency situation. So you can imagine what are the changes occurring that time. Your blood pressure increases, then respiration rate increases, you start sweating will be there. Okay, so it is an emergency situation. So this hormone or the hormone secreted by adrenal gland, okay, it helps us to fight against different emergency situation. Okay, now let us discuss what are the hormones secreted by this medulla region and cortex region. Okay, where it is found? It is present above the kidney. So there are two regions in adrenal gland. What are the inner medulla and second part is called outer cortex. Have you understood what is adrenal gland? We have discussed. Now let us discuss what are the hormones secreted by adrenal gland and what are the functions performed by adrenal gland. Okay, students, so there are two regions. First region is called inner medulla. First region is called inner medulla. Adrenal gland has two regions, inner medulla and outer cortex. So inner medulla mainly secrete two hormones. Okay, it secrete two hormones. What are they? First hormone is called epinephrine. What is it? First hormone is known as epinephrine, or it is also called adrenaline. It is also called adrenaline. And second hormone is called norepinephrine. Okay, second hormone is called norepinephrine. Norepinephrine, or it is also called noradrenaline. Noradrenaline. So there are two hormones secreted by inner medulla region of adrenal gland. What are they? First one is called epinephrine. It is also called adrenaline. And second hormone is known as norepinephrine, or it is also called noradrenaline. We have already discussed it is associated with some emergency functions. Okay, so it helps our body to fight against some emergency situation. So we have to overcome some emergency situation in our life. In such conditions, our adrenal gland will be very active and it secretes some hormones to our blood. Okay, so first we have to discuss what is the function of adrenaline. Adrenaline is also known as epinephrine. It is usually associated with the sympathetic nerve system. It is usually associated with the sympathetic nerve system. Okay, associated with the sympathetic nerve system. We already discussed it, we already studied it, what is sympathetic system and parasympathetic system. Okay, our peripheral nerve system contain a part, it is called autonomous nerve system. In that we already studied there are two regions in autonomous nerve system. What are the sympathetic system and parasympathetic system? So this adrenaline or epinephrine usually joins with which type of nerve system? Sympathetic nerve system, and it helps our body to fight against different emergency condition. Then what is the role of norepinephrine or noradrenaline? It is also associated with which hormone? Adrenaline or epinephrine. In other ways we can tell it helps in the functions of epinephrine. So it is these hormones are known as emergency hormone. It is secreted by inner medulla region of our which gland? Adrenal gland. Now there are second region. So first region is called inner medulla, then second region is called outer cortex. Outer cortex, that is outer cortex region of our adrenal gland. Here there are three hormones secreted by outer cortex region. First hormone is known as cortisol. What is it? First hormone is known as cortisol, and second hormone is known as aldosterone. Second hormone is known as aldosterone, and third hormone is known as sex hormones. So there are three hormones synthesized in outer cortex region of our adrenal gland. What are the hormones? So first hormone is known as cortisol, and second hormone is known as aldosterone, and third hormone is known as sex hormones. Now what are the functions performed by cortisol? Cortisol is associated with some important functions. First one we can write, that is synthesis of glucose synthesis from fat and protein. Okay, so one important function performed by cortisol, what is it? That is synthesis of glucose synthesis. So there are some substances used from protein and fat. Cortisol synthesize glucose. Synthesis of glucose is one important function of cortisol. Then there are some other functions performed by cortisol. It slows down defense mechanism. It slows down defense mechanism. Defense mechanism. It slows down defense mechanism. What is defense mechanism? That is, our body will be fighting against different types of pathogens or microorganism or disease causing organism. So cortisol slows down, okay, defense mechanism, that process it slows down. In some situation our body should slows down defense mechanism. Okay, so it helps in slowing down the defense mechanism of our body. Then there are some other functions performed by cortisol. What are they? To control inflammation. To control inflammation and allergic reaction. To control inflammation and allergic reaction. What is allergy? You may be knowing. These are some sudden responses when any pathogen or any substance enters in our body. Okay, for example, when any pollen grain or any itching plant part reaches in your surface of your body, what will happen? That region will become reddish in color, and many blood cells will join together and they will come in that region. Okay, it will be in red in color. So it is an example for an allergy. Okay, so there are three functions performed by cortisol. What are they? That is, first one, synthesis of glucose. From where it is synthesized? It synthesizes glucose from protein and fat. Okay, then slows down defense mechanism. And third function, it reduces inflammation and allergy. Okay. Then our second hormone, that is called aldosterone. It also performs some important function. First we can write here, that is salt water balance. Salt water balance in kidney. Okay. It is associated with maintaining salt water balance in kidney. Okay. So first function performed by aldosterone, what is it? That is salt water balance in kidney. Then in addition to this, it also perform maintain blood pressure. Okay, maintain blood pressure. It is a function performed by aldosterone. Okay, so what are the functions performed by aldosterone? First we can write, that is salt water balance, that is in kidney. Then it maintain blood pressure. Okay, so in order to maintain blood pressure itself, our body already there are some hormones. Okay, some hormones present in our body. What is it? Aldosterone. Who secrete aldosterone? That is outer cortex region of adrenal gland. Then there are some other hormone. What is it? It is called sex hormone. So what will be the function of sex hormone? It is associated with different reproductive structures. Okay, that is our reproductive functions or reproductive part. It is associated with the reproductive part, that is growth and development of reproductive organs, etc. So this is about our second gland. What is it? It is called adrenal gland. Okay. Then there are two regions, inner medulla and outer cortex. Outer cortex, there are three hormones. What are they? Cortisol, aldosterone and sex hormone. Okay students, our third gland name is pineal gland. It is also called biological clock. What is it? It is also called biological clock, because it is associated with some rhythmic activities. What is it? It is associated with rhythmic activities of our body. What is it? Rhythmic activities. What does it mean? So there are some daily activities or routine activities taking place in our body. What are they? For example, we can write sleeping, then any other routine activities or continuously doing activities. First we can write sleeping, then for example we can write walking. So these are some routine activities or rhythmic activities taking place in our body. So this gland is called biological clock. Okay, where it is found? It is present in the middle of the brain. Middle of our brain, this pineal gland is present. Okay, so it is associated with some biological activities or rhythmic activities or our daily routine activities. Then why it is called a biological clock? Because it makes our body alert, okay, conscious, okay, in different situations. Okay, in order to perform these routine activities, our brain should be very alert. Okay, so actually we no need to set a alarm or any other alarms are not required by our body, because there is a clock. Okay, there is a clock. A gland is present in our brain. It perform all these activities. If you didn't set an alarm also, our brain will automatically wake up. Okay, because of this pineal gland. Okay, so it is secrete a hormone. Okay, pineal gland also, it is also an endocrine gland. It secrete a hormone that is called melatonin. What is it? A hormone known as melatonin. Okay, it is an endocrine gland. Where it is present? It is present in the middle of our brain. Okay, it is associated with some routine activities or rhythmic activities. It secrete a hormone known as melatonin. If you consider the melatonin production, okay, the amount of melatonin production, that is during night this gland will be very active and it produces more amount of melatonin during night. And during daytime, what happens? During daytime, the level of melatonin decreases. Okay, during daytime, what happens? The level of melatonin decreases in our body. Level of melatonin decreases in our body, and during night, what happens? The level of melatonin increases in our body. So, there are some activities, routine activities performed by this gland. What is it? This gland is known as pineal gland. It is also called a biological clock. Then what will be the functions? What are the functions performed by this melatonin? Okay, it is associated with, you can write, already we discussed, what is it? Rhythmic activities, and all other body activities are controlled by this gland. Which is that gland? It is called a pineal gland. It is called a biological clock because it performs all the rhythmic activities. Okay, it is where it is present. It is present in the middle of the brain. The hormone secreted by pineal gland is known as melatonin. The production, the amount of melatonin is more during night, and daytime it usually decreases. Okay, then it is associated with rhythmic activities and other body activity. So, this is about pineal gland. Next, we are going to discuss about an important endocrine gland. It is called pituitary gland. What is it? It is called pituitary gland. Okay, our today's topic, that is fourth gland. It is known as a pituitary gland. Where it is present? It is present in the center of brain. Pituitary gland is also present in the center of brain. Actually, this pituitary gland has two regions. So, first region is known as anterior lobe. Okay, two region or two lobes are present in pituitary gland. First region is known as anterior lobe, and second one is known as posterior lobe. Where it is present? It is present in the center of brain. Then there are two lobes, two foldings are there in pituitary gland. What are they? Anterior lobe and posterior lobe. It is very important gland because it controls other glands, and the hormones secreted by pituitary gland also control all the functions of other endocrine glands. So, very important gland. It is present in the center of brain. So, this anterior lobe also secretes some hormone, and posterior lobe also secretes some hormone. That we can discuss what are the hormones secreted by anterior lobe, then what are the hormones secreted by posterior lobe. Now, we can discuss, there are some important functions associated with the pituitary gland. First, we can write it is associated with the growth activities, that is growth and development of our body. Okay, the growth and development of body is controlled by pituitary hormone. It is also called growth hormone. It is also called growth hormone. In other ways, we can tell it as growth hormone, or it is also called somatotrophin. It is also called somatotrophin. So, it is a very important gland associated with growth and development. It secretes a hormone known as growth hormone. It is also called somatotrophin. So, there are some disorders associated with somatotrophin, that is increased production of somatotrophin during growth stage and decreased production of somatotrophin during growth stage, and increased production of somatotrophin after growing stage, that is after maturity. Suppose the gland secrete more amount of somatotropin, what happens? So we have to discuss some disorders associated with this growth hormone somatotropin that we can discuss now. Listen here, there are some disorders associated with the pituitary gland, that is the hormone known as growth hormone or somatotropin. So there are some disorders associated with the somatotropin. So first disorder is known as, it is called gigantism. What is it? It is called gigantism. That is increased production of somatotropin or growth hormone during growth stage is known as what? A condition known as gigantism. So it is associated with the excessive growth of our body and different body parts, then our bones and different structures of our body. So that individual will be more growth. Okay, it shows more growth than a normal individual. So such a disorder is known as gigantism. Okay, that is due to increased production. What is it? Due to increased production of somatotropin or growth hormone. Then there is another situation. It is called dwarfism. It is called dwarfism. It is due to decreased production. It is due to decreased production of somatotropin or growth hormone. Okay. So these are some situations taking place in growing stage. If the hormonal level increases, it leads to a condition known as gigantism. And second condition, that is decreased production of somatotropin during growing stage, it is called dwarfism. Then there is another disorder. Suppose the synthesis or production of growth hormone or somatotropin increases after growing stage. It leads to a condition known as acromegaly. It leads to a condition known as acromegaly, that is usually in older people. Okay. After growing period, if the growth hormone or vasopressin, okay, increases, what happens? It leads to a condition known as acromegaly. It is characterized by increased growth of bones, then increased size of our different body parts, then fingers, faces, bone will be increasing its size, then it leads to a condition. It is due to increased production of growth hormone or somatotropin after period of growth. So this is about some disorders associated with the pituitary gland. Now we already discussed that there are two regions. What are there? First one is known as anterior lobe and second region is known as posterior lobe. So there is a chart mentioned here. You can go through that chart. So there are some hormones secreted by anterior lobe and posterior lobe. So let us go through that chart. So there are some hormones secreted at anterior lobe. Then posterior lobe also secretes some hormone. So anterior lobe, you can you read it? What is it? First one, it is known as TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. Expanded form is thyroid stimulating hormone. It stimulates activity of thyroid gland. So it is a hormone secreted at anterior lobe. Then there is another hormone. It is called ACTH, that is adrenocorticotropic hormone. What is it? Adrenocorticotropic hormone. What are the functions performed by ACTH? Stimulate activity of adrenal cortex. Okay, it is associated with the adrenal gland. The hormone name is adrenocorticotropic hormone. And third hormone, GTH, gonadotrophic hormone. The expanded form is gonadotrophic hormone. It stimulates activity in, that is, it is associated sexual activities. In male, it functions in testis, and female, it performs its function in ovary. this hormone is known as GTH, that is gonadotrophic hormone. Then there are some other hormone called growth hormone or somatotrophic hormone. Growth hormone, or it is also called GH. Then second one is known as STH, that is somatotrophic hormone. It promotes growth of our body. Then there is another hormone which is called prolactin. It is associated with milk production in pregnant women. Okay, so there are some hormones secreted at the anterior lobe. How many hormones are there? There are 6 types of hormone. What are they? TSH, it is called thyroid stimulating hormone. Second one is known as adrenocorticotrophic hormone. Second hormone is known as gonadotrophic hormone. Then next one is known as growth hormone. Then other one somatotrophic hormone. Then last one it is called prolactin. So these are the hormones secreted at anterior lobe. Then there is a posterior lobe. Here there are 2 hormones secreted. What are they? First one is known as oxytocin and second one is known as vasopressin. Oxytocin, it facilitates childbirth. Okay, it facilitates childbirth. So it is also called birth hormone. Okay, it facilitates childbirth, that is contraction of smooth muscles at ovary. Okay, it is associated with childbirth. It is called birth hormone. And second hormone is known as vasopressin. Okay, it is associated with reabsorption of water at kidney. So there are 2 hormones secreted at posterior lobe of our pituitary gland. So how many hormones are there? There are around 8 hormones secreted by our pituitary gland. It is very important gland, very important endocrine gland present in our body. It is associated with different function, and the hormones secreted by this pituitary gland also influence different types of endocrine gland. So this is about today's topic.